You don't like my lasagna?
No, it's good.
Here, blow. Blow on it.
You see it, right?
Is there a draft in here? I'm telling you, it's so easy to get home insurance on Progressive.com.
Progressive can't save you from becoming your parents, but we can save you money when you bundle home and auto.
Luxury. The Jewelry Exchange has this rare GIA 3-carat D flawless for $165, 5-carat triple excellent round for $45, 4-carat VS1 cushion for only $34,000. Thousands of GIA diamonds guaranteed the lowest price. The Jewelry Exchange Direct.
Everybody's talking about the progress you've made in the last few months since I opened it up. We opened it up. We said, go ahead. We're going to fight to win. We're not fighting anymore to just walk around. We're fighting to win. And you people are really, you've turned it around over the last 3 to 4 months like nobody's seen. And they are talking about it. We're being talked about again as an armed forces. We're really winning. We know how to win. But we have to let you win. They weren't letting you win before. They were letting you play even. We're letting you win.
The president doesn't have any major legislation in the win column, but he does have that winning rhetoric thing down pat. Another topic Trump is happy to talk about, the economy. Here he is talking to troops on Thanksgiving about what they should be thankful for.
The economy is doing really great. When you come back, you're going to see with the jobs and companies coming back into our country, and the stock market just hit a record high. Unemployment's the lowest it's been in 17 years. So you're fighting for something real. You're fighting for something good. Now we're working on tax cuts, big, fat, beautiful tax cuts. And hopefully we'll get that, and then you're going to really see things happen.
Trump is heading to Capitol Hill Tuesday to meet with Senate Republicans about their version of the tax plan. He's also meeting with the so-called Big Four: McConnell, Schumer, Ryan, and Pelosi. Lauren, you've been covering this. Talk about the president's role as the cheerleader behind this bill, really wanted to get it done. He'll be on the Hill next week.
This is it for Republican agenda items this year. They failed on the Affordable Care Act, on repealing it. This is the major agenda item. And President Trump's role here, I think, is very interesting in that I don't know if he's going to actually be able to sell this plan and make some of the people who are on the line, like Senator Susan Collins of Maine, turn around and say, you know what, the president came to Capitol Hill. I think I'm going to vote for this bill now. I don't think that's what his role really is here. I think his role is a little broader than that, in that if they do pass this bill, he wants to make sure that he can say, look what I did on Capitol Hill. Look who I talked to. Look who I convinced.
Yeah. And Molly, here he is talking about how it really is all up to Republicans to get this done.
With the Democrats giving us no votes for tax cuts for purely political reasons, obstructionists, it will be up to the Republicans to come through for America. I think they will. I hope they will. It's up to the Senate.
He also tweeted about this, that Republican senators are working very hard to get tax cuts. He is focused on this, laser-like, really in a way that he wasn't with Obamacare, the repeal efforts.
Right, and you can understand how, for a person with Trump's background and who doesn't particularly like paying taxes, that this would resonate right. with him in a way that healthcare didn't necessarily. He's obviously personally passionate about people's tax bills, but I think it's also really interesting in that clip where you hear him again saying, we're talking about Republicans as they.
Yeah, as if he's
right?
not part of
that. He did the same thing on health care, and it actually tells you two different things, right? Number one, he doesn't necessarily see himself as part of the team. He's looking at the Republicans and Democrats both as being sort of external to him, and he's sort of a critic and a pusher and a cheerleader, as you said. But number two, he does see himself as sort of a spectator in this process. He's watching it unfold, and he's cheering them on, and he's trying to nudge where he can, but he's not actually in there in the trenches. He's certainly not crafting the legislation. Right. He's not really voicing support or opposition to any particular provisions in the bill. He's just watching it unfold and trying to help where he can.
And after that, Karin. We'll see what happens if tax reform, the vote is this week. Other agenda items, right, that he's going to have to deal with going forward. The government shutdown, that deadline looming December 8th. Will we get the reemergence of the Chuck and Nancy show?
Right. So that is an open question. I mean, also just remember that even if you have a Senate vote this week, tax reform is not done.
Right.
It still has to be. It is a very different bill than exists in the House. So this
lots
is not the end of the story.
Sausage making.
Lots of sausage making, and also, just based on the timeline, they're trying to do this quickly, but they really do have to get this done in December. They're running into issues with who wins Alabama Senate after that. The certain senators, John McCain is not doing as well as he was before, hoping that they can get everything done before they have to worry about, cobbling those numbers together. But yes, moving forward, they have to get a budget bill through. Otherwise, there will be another government shutdown. And that never quite plays well, even if it seems to be, we'll shut down the government to get what we want. What we want isn't really there as part of the discussion this time. So they really do just have to get that money on the table. And then as part of that,
DACA be part of that?
Probably not, right? I mean, that is the open one of the open questions. DACA is an open question. There is a really important surveillance provision that they have to, if they want to keep the NSA to be able to look at foreign targets overseas and to be able to do that. There's a big privacy debate going on about whether the intelligence community is going to lose its #1 tool, basically.
Busy season,
right. And so there are all of these discussions, but right now nobody's discussing it because everybody's so focused on tax reform. So that means that you're probably going to have this happen rather quickly, or you will end up having a very short-term extension and then kicks that down the line, which means we'll be pushed even closer to Christmas and trying to work a lot of this stuff out. And that's always fun.
Yeah, and unclear what happens with tax reform, if the Obamacare mandate is a part of that, and what that means for Democrats' moods after that, if that's a part of that. The other thing, Bender, that's on the to-do list is appointing a CFPB leader, right? That's something that the president said he wants to do. We'll see on Monday who wins the battle, who's actually in charge there. But this is something that is on top of mind for a lot of Democrats as well. Warren, who was part of the founding of this board, she tweeted this: less than a decade after taxpayers bailed out the big banks, the banking industry made record profits last year. That's who you're worried about, Donald Trump. And she was responding to this, the president, who tweeted this, a little Twitter war after Thanksgiving. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or CFPB, has been a total disaster as run by the previous administration's pick. Financial institutions have been devastated and unable to properly serve the public. We will bring it back to life. This is going to be a fight, and in some ways a fight that both sides sort of want.
Yeah, and that's a good fight for both sides to have. But who is surprised here that the Trump administration is facing a personnel crisis, right? I mean, they were caught flat-footed here with Cordray's departure. I'm sure they were caught flat-footed with Cordray's own decision to appoint his own successor. They scrambled to have Mulvaney slide into that spot. But you can go through each one of these agencies. There are dozens of appointees and nominations that Trump has not made, from some really glaring holes in the State Department. He just sort of fixed some openings on the National Labor Relations Board that had essentially left Democrats to control. And also, if I can just make a step back here too on Trump's pivot into the Senate this week, it's just going to be really interesting to see how he comes out of here. You mentioned that tax reform is what animates him here, but these are folks in the Senate that want to know the details, right? Ron Johnson is in the weeds here on what he wants to see out of this tax reform. Trump is known more for his communication skills.
Right, and the sort of the salesman part of it and the branding. Yeah,
exactly. And he kind of talks in broad, sweeping generalities that works very well on the campaign trail, works very well on TV. But these are folks in the room that want to know whose votes are going to be dependent on the details. And also, I mean, his credibility here. We go back to healthcare reform, where he
He was out there and then
cajole it through the House and then sort of
called it mean
blindsided
later.
the entire Republican conference in the House when public opinion turned on it.
Yeah, and for this one, the same people in many ways to watch, right? Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, Ron Johnson, John McCain. We'll see how this shakes out this week. Coming up, Capitol Hill consumed by sexual harassment controversies. Why one Democrat is saying for her party, resignation is the only way forward.
This is our workshop. And this is our tradition. These are our lights. And this is our season of performance. Take advantage of some of the best offers of the year at the Accurate Season of Performance event going on now.
Lease the 2018 RDX for $309 a month for well-qualified customers. Don't miss this event going on now.
If you just sign that first
I'm
one
so
there.
sorry. I don't feel comfortable signing that.
I don't get the math here.
Was this the same car we talked about?
What's this dealer preparation fee?
I'm so sorry. This just is not
what we talked about.
Get the car without the car salesman. Carvana.com, the better way to buy a car.
Luxury. The Jewelry Exchange has these rare 10-carat diamond studs for $59,000. 13-carat custom tennis bracelet, $13,000. 5-carat VS1 Asher is $79,000. Plus thousands of GIA diamonds guaranteed the lowest price. The Jewelry Exchange Direct.
Remember how the economic crash was supposed to be a wake-up call for our government? People all across the country lost their savings, their pensions, and their jobs. I'm Tom Steyer. And it turned out that the system that had benefited people like me who were well off was in fact stacked against everyone else. It's why I left my investment firm and resolved to use my savings for the public good. But here we are 9 years later, and this president and the Republican Congress are making a bad situation even worse. They won't tell you that their so-called tax reform plan is really for the wealthy and big corporations while hurting the middle class. It blows up the deficit. And that means fewer investments in education, healthcare, and job creation. It's up to all of us to stand up to this president, not just for impeachable offenses, but also to demand a country where everyone has a real chance to succeed. Join us. Your voice matters.
He's a NASCAR champion who's faced thousands of drivers. She's a world-class swimmer who stared down the best in her sport. But for both of them, the most challenging opponent was
PE blood clots in my lung. It was really scary.
A DVT in my leg.
I had to learn all I could to help protect myself.
My doctor and I chose Xarelto.
Xarelto, to help keep me protected.
Xarelto is a latest generation blood thinner that's proven to treat and reduce the risk of DVT and PE blood clots from happening again. In clinical studies, almost 98% of patients on Xarelto did not experience another DVT or PE.
Here's how Xarelto works.
Xarelto works differently. Warfarin interferes with at least 6 blood clotting factors. Xarelto is selective, targeting just one critical factor interacting with less of your body's natural blood clotting function. Don't stop taking Xarelto without talking to your doctor, as this may increase risk of blood clots. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. It may increase your risk of bleeding if you take certain medicines. Xarelto can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Get help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling. If you've had spinal anesthesia, watch for back pain or any nerve or muscle-related signs or symptoms. Do not take Xarelto if you have an artificial heart valve or abnormal bleeding. Tell your doctor before all planned medical or dental procedures and before starting Xarelto about any conditions such as kidney, liver, or bleeding problems.
You've got to learn all you can
to help protect yourself from DVT and PE blood clots. Talk to your doctor about Xarelto. There's more to know.
Say hello to the BravaJet mopping robot from iRobot. Its precision jet spray and vibrating cleaning head loosen and scrub stains, all while navigating kitchens, bathrooms, and those hard-to-reach places. You and BravaJet from iRobot. Better together.
In this post-Harvey Weinstein world, it didn't take long for Capitol Hill to become a focal point for its own sexual harassment scandals. One example, the sitting senator who is facing groping allegations from 4 women. Al Franken, the Democrat from Minnesota, has issued 3 written apologies now, but he hasn't disputed that these incidents actually happened. His Thanksgiving Day statement read this way: "I crossed a line for some women, and I know that any number is too many. Some women have found my greetings or embraces for a hug or photo inappropriate, and I respect their feelings about that. I feel terribly that I've made some women feel badly, and for that I am so sorry, and I want to make sure that never happens again. Then there's Congressman John Conyers, accused of harassment and discrimination by former staffers. He's facing an ethics investigation after BuzzFeed first reported he used taxpayer dollars to settle a 2015 complaint from a former staffer who alleges that she was fired because she refused sexual advances from the congressman. Conyers denies the harassment allegations, but even some members of his own party are calling for him to resign.
Enough is enough. At this point, what I am voicing publicly is what every single private citizen is saying across America. Why are the rules for politicians in Washington different than they are for everyone else? Right now, what we're talking about is there going to be any level of accountability? And, saying that we're going to have these allegations against politicians go before an ethics committee that can sometimes take a couple of years. No offense to my colleagues who are on the ethics committee, but that's not real. That's not real. And that's not accountability.
And Molly, she's out front and in many ways alone on this, with most folks saying it should go to the ethics committee. Some people saying that he should step down from his positions on different committees. How does Congress move forward on this? What do they do?
Yeah, I think this is a real moment of reckoning to see if Congress can actually handle this within their own ranks, or if they will be, able to see the misdeeds among everybody else, but not their own. I mean, this is clearly, there is already a move that has some support to change the way these allegations are handled. The Conyers case, you could see how flawed that process was. I guess nobody should be surprised that the people who write the rules make the rules to favor them.
Right.
That's the case in many areas involving politicians. But as Congresswoman Rice was saying, this is a process that seems set up to protect members of Congress instead of to protect the alleged victims of these kinds of behavior. And so there's a move to change what had been a confidential process that really put victims at a disadvantage. But I don't think that's going to be enough for a lot of people. I think a lot of people are going to want to see, as Congresswoman was saying, some actual consequences, and to see this handled in what doesn't feel like a partisan manner. If this becomes, this is the other team's problem and the people on my team are blameless, that is going to, I think, really put a bad taste in people's mouth, really seem hypocritical.
And along with Representative Rice there, the Detroit Free Press, their editorial board has called on Representative Conyers to resign. They said the revelations of Conyers' alleged sexual harassment scandal and his documented use of taxpayer dollars to bury that scandal in violation of congressional ethics rules is less ambiguous. It is the kind of behavior that can never be tolerated in a public official, much less an elected representative of the people. That is their take on it. Very hard to get people to resign. And leaders, in some ways, may not be as powerful as they once were. And you talk about somebody like Conyers, he's 88 years old, longest serving member in the House and one of the founders of the CBC. He is saying he's not going anywhere.
I mean, yes, ultimately it's up to Conyers, because the process to actually remove some